love it. I love my HBCU and man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see my team won aloud. If they're loud, I'm fine.
Just we bet you got it. You all right.
I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Bill, we know what he be talking about Charles. They know what they be talking about, with some pressure analytic data, with the real hop, if you know them like I know them. They gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna love, so listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson, yes. And you gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how your team they play, how they play, yeah. We represent that swag, that MEAC, and let me say, what's up to Tennessee, stay, tune into the HBCU Sports Lab, with Dr. Bill, Mike and Charles, knocking time,
It's that time.
Yes, sir.
This is Dr. Khalil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with your weekly radio show. I have Mike Washington and Charles Bishop, as we always do about this time, just to get you in the studio, get you ready to going, as I said. We have a great show, I think, lined up for you today. Very excited about it. You probably can kind of tell with everything. And we'll have several call-ins. We're going to go outside of the map that we usually do, but as we certainly cover it, but we're going to get some interviews. Looks like we're going to go into the NIA, football coach and the president. We're going to go into the CIAA, give you a voice of a football coach and a president. So we're going to leave it a little bit as a surprise and hopefully keep you listening, but we'll get started there. So welcome and thanks for joining us for the only weekly sports talk radio show that is dedicated to exploring the HBCU sporting dash with its unique cultural identity, including the teams, the bands, coaches, athletic directors, and classics and homecoming events, as well as the sport management business practices in the competitive sports industry. The show seeks to provide innovative, progressive, and informative dialogue about the week's HBCU sporting events, issues, and ideas from a fan's perspective. We review the Southwestern Athletic Conference, better known as the SWAC, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, better known as the MEAC of the NCAA Division I, as well as the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, SIAC, and the Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association, the CIAA of the NCAA Division II. We also review the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, GCAC, of the NAIA and independent programs such as Tennessee State, the Ohio Valley Conference, and Langston in terms of the Central State Football League, and that will be changing. We'll get into that a little bit as they're joining the Sooner Athletic Conference next year, all conference members, so they'll move out of the Red River Athletic Conference, so this will be the last academic year they do that. And then you have Texas College that played with them in the Central State Football League and also a member of the Red River Athletic Conference. They'll go over to the Sooner Athletic Conference as affiliate member, so they'll play football over there. They'll stay in the Red River Athletic Conference for all of the sports. So I think that's an interesting information to take. And as we get further into the show, as you know, we like to start off about this time. Let's jump right into there. Charles, give us some updates in terms of the news that's going on out there.
Well, sure thing. SWAC Players of the Week. We start off with Offensive Player of the Week is Orlando Veals, Alcorn State senior wide receiver. He had a career day. He registered career highs of 253 yards, receiving 3 touchdown catches against Mississippi Valley State. Huge day for Orlando Veals. Defensive Player of the Week was Vernon Moreland. He is a 5'10", 235-pound redshirt junior from Birmingham. He had 7 tackles, 2 assisted, 4 sacks, in a loss against Jackson State. He also had a forced fumble. Specialist of the Week was Trevor Vincent from Alabama State. He averaged 43.5 yards per punt. And the newcomer of the week is Nico Hollins, 25 of 43 for 410 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 35-12 victory over Arkansas Pine Bluff.
You like that. Mike, so since you are excited about what Nico was able to do this past weekend, jump in here. You have any latest news that you want to provide to the listeners?
Well, not to be outdone, but Howard had a running back Normally, when we speak of Howard, we're talking about the young quarterback there, the young Newton. But this time we had Anthony Filial. Filial ran for a season 193-yard, buck 93, 2 touchdowns, including a long 60-yard run. So he's a senior from Los Angeles, came up big, especially in the second half with a big fourth quarter. So I wanted to give him props as well.
Well deserved, well stated.
Yeah. So I do have a couple of other news. This is kind of so NFL hopeful, South Carolina State. The Darius Leonard ended the game on a big note.
What did he do?
He pulled a George Correa. So not only did South Carolina State win the game, he finished the game with 8 tackles, two sacks, all of that. But the culminating event was when he got down at midfield and proposed to his girlfriend, Kayla Michelle Sanderson. And, of course, she said yes. Now, I'm sure the rock was not as big as Mr. Correa's, but I give him points on style.
Yes, indeed.
So, way to end his senior season. They do predict him as a pretty, or they do elevate him on several charts as having a good opportunity to make the NFL. So,
I like that news. I caught that little picture of that, and you had all the players around there just hyping him up.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you know that's becoming, man. How do you top that now?
That's a
Since
hard
so
one
many
to
players
play.
are doing that now.
Yeah, that's a hard one to top in terms of any other good news out there that you want to share.
Well, I think you had a CIAA. They named their players of the year. Of course, offensively, it was Trent Cannon from Virginia State. He rushed this past season for 1,531 yards and 17 touchdowns. He is a CIAA Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year was Sterling Hammond. He is a senior defensive back for Virginia Union. He led the CIAA in interceptions. He had 5, 70 tackles, 48 solo tackles, and the CIAA Coach of the Year was Reggie Barlow from the Virginia State Trojans.
Yes.
Hint, we might hear something about that later in the show. That's pretty big. So what did you think about their honors? What do you think they were right on point or a little off there? Anybody that deserved to be on?
Well, I thought of Amir Hall. I thought they were going to be co-offensive players of the year in CIAA, but I don't think you could go wrong either way. Trenton Cannon, Amir Hall. Amir Hall put up big numbers this past season for Bowie State. And I thought he would have been right in the running for co-offensive player of the year.
Yeah, I thought so too, but I think it has maybe there's some relation to where your team finished.
Yeah.
You know, so because Virginia State, but Amir Hall would have gotten my vote as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Amir Hall was certainly solid, and he did get on the first team. That's a tough one when you talk about those two players. But I think you make an excellent argument that no question that he should have been in the mix for the Player of the Year.
Well, and especially seeing as how Bowie State, they will be hosting a playoff game. So,
and they had another picture on that the coach sent out there and gave, like they do. You see this often in basketball. Sometimes in baseball where they're waiting for their seating. Or in some questions just to see if they're going to get in. Well, you had that for Bowie State as they jumped in, and boy, they were hyped, especially when they heard they had a home contest. I don't think they were expecting a home contest with that. But then goes into the next question was to Tuskegee. Did Tuskegee get robbed? Before y'all jump in and answer that question, we have Thomas White Jr. watching, Browning Moore, Delacia, Mike Washington, somebody is joining in. He jumped on here. Thomas said, "What's up?" Yeah, Lynn Johnson McCall. Is Charles Bishop with you? Yeah, he's in the studio. Marvin Phillips is watching. Wendell Davis. I see y'all got jokes as y'all were absent last week. That's why I fired y'all. You're lucky you back. Langston English, Christopher LeBlanc is on. So, just to give a shout out. So, what are your thoughts on Langston? Did they get robbed? Did they deserve to be in the playoffs?
Tuskegee.
And Tuskegee, excuse me, in terms of what on, especially when you think about the concept that they were jumped by a team that did defeat a very solid team, but they only defeated them by 3-4 points or whatever. It was a close game. And so, as they won the championship game, but then they were jumped, which bumped them out of the playoff. So
Yeah.
they didn't fall in the top
Yeah.
6 for to earn access to be able to basically get an automatic bid. And so the SIAC as a conference was left out. And you had the Gulf South Conference, I guess it is, with 4 representatives.
representatives.
Yeah.
CIAA got 2 in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something wrong with 4 teams getting in there.
Yeah.
Especially
I
some
think-
teams with 3 teams losses. I'll jump
Well,
out
yeah,
there.
with
Y'all,
3
y'all
losses,
false.
right.
I'll say it.
This
Y'all
is
will be
not
nice
the,
today.
this is not the Division One where you have a playoff and you're saying that even if you win your conference, you can't make it in. There's something inherently wrong in the system where if I win the SIAC championship and there's another conference that sends 4, not 1, 2, but 4 teams,
Right.
and I can compete competitively with that, meet the eye test, I think yes, they got gypped.
And then you got 2 non-conference wins against Alabama State
Yes.
and Jackson State.
Yes.
You have to sit back and wonder how much did the loss to Findlay
Exactly.
hurt Tuskegee.
Oh, it certainly hurt, but
Yeah.
you could do that and go to anybody's
Yeah.
contest
Right.
and talk about one game. Yeah, it was one game and they got beat up real bad. But they righted the ship, playing excellent at the end of the season, winning several games. Obviously, we thought the SIAC stunk.
Yeah.
But I still have a problem when you talk about looking at the playoffs. Part of the playoffs is also the diversification.
Right.
That you're playing several teams to be crowned because you're really starting over. And part of that is the fact that you get all these different teams in to see who lasts the longest. So why have a conference, why have a regular season if you can do anything in your conference and get in? At some point it becomes like the basketball where you just have so many teams and the first week is pure entertainment and about money, but Division II you're not even generating the money. So
Right.
No.
in turn, and they say it that one of the things they say about the Division II, get in the game or whatever is they talk about it, and what they're really saying about that is we do it because we can. So if that's what you're doing, and you're not obviously doing it because the money is big, the fame, and all that, then why you don't equal out the playing field so you really get everybody in the playoffs?
Sure.
Yeah.
That didn't make that rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, that leaves a sour taste in you.
Very sour taste, and then the country is denied an opportunity to see one of the better linebackers, I think, in all of Division II, Osmond Thompson. He's a tremendous football player who should get a shot on the next level, but gosh, that hurts for Tuskegee to not get in.
Well, let's jump right into mid-major poll. In a lot of ways, there's not a lot of change in here. No team jumped out. A couple of teams went up in the scale, particularly at the bottom 10. So see what you think as we start to move forward. We have number 10, Fort Valley State Wildcats. Number 9, Winston-Salem State Rams. Number 8, Fayetteville State Broncos. Number 7, Virginia Union Panthers. At number 6, Miles Golden Bears. At number 5, Benedict Tigers. At number 4, Tuskegee Golden Tigers. At number 3, Bowie State Bulldogs. At number 2, Langston Lions with 4 first-place votes. And number 1, Virginia State Trojans, 6 first-place votes. Votes Langston and Virginia State in the season at 10-0.
Yep.
Langston 8-0 in the conference play and Trojans 7-0 in the conference play. Any thoughts on that as we go forward?
Where did you have Fayetteville State? 6?
Yes. No, they're at 8. They jumped down because of that loss they had.
Lost in the championship
loss.
So
game.
they're at number 8.
That lost in the championship, though, right?
That's a good point. You got it.
They lost in the championship. And I don't believe that a loss in a championship should catapult them all the way. I still think that they played good enough to make the championship. They had solid offense, solid play on both sides of the field. And I'm looking up their stats. But I believe that they were top 5 in every category in the CIAA. So I was just...
Would you have them inside the top 5?
Yes, I would.
So you got an undefeated Langston.
Yep.
You have Bowie, who put up points left and right. You have an undefeated.
You got Virginia State, Langston. You got Virginia State. You have Langston. You have Bowie State. And then who did you have at 4 and 5?
Tuskegee. Tuskegee was in there somewhere.
5.
Up there.
Tuskegee
in the
was
top
number
5.
4. And then your number 5 slot was... But I would have had them somewhere in the 5 or 6 range.
Number 5, I had Benedict Tigers with their upset season. We're going to go straight to the line and we're going to have to make a little adjunct move. We thought that we are going to have both on the same line, but we're going to do one interview and then go to the other one. So I think we're going to start with President Dr. Kent J. Smith Jr. Is this President of Langston University? This is Dr. Smith?
No, this is Coach Morgan right here.
Coach Quentin Morgan. We're going to, we were trying to time the lines, but we're not able to time the line. So we're going to put you on hold. We're going to go to your president, and then we're going to do a short interview with him, and then we're going to come to you and go into the football program.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
Here as well.
Dr. Kent Smith?
Yes, I'm here.
Sorry to have you holding there. We were trying to tie in the line so we could have both of you on at the same time. We have your coach on. We're going to do the interview with yourself, and then we're going to go Coach Quentin Morgan and get in here so we can make sure we give both of you all some time to talk about Langston University and obviously the great football program after a great season. How you doing today?
Doing very, very well, man. I really appreciate the opportunity. And just to let you know, I couldn't hear Coach Morgan. I don't know if that matters to you when he just spoke.
Yes, that's what I was saying. We don't have the lines tied in together.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to do one interview, and then we're going to come back to Coach Morgan and get him in there. So we're going to do basically two separate interviews.
No problem, man. We're just honored to be able to participate.
We appreciate you understanding it, and it's good to have you on. Let's get started right here and just jump in there and tell a little bit about your background for those that are not familiar. Obviously, the president of Langston University. Go ahead.
Well, sure. Well, to begin with, I'm a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and certainly like most Baton Rougeans and folks from Louisiana, I'm a graduate of two-time graduate of Southern University. And for me to have the opportunity to be a part of a historically black college and university as the university president, it is certainly an honor. So I've kind of made my way around for about 23 years now in higher education, and I've been at Langston University. I'm in my 6th year at this time.
Yeah. Certainly, President, it's my understanding you're the 16th president of Langston University as you move forward with your installment with the Board of Regents back in January 2012, as you said, your 6th year. Tell us a little bit about Langston University. Those that are not familiar know that you're out of Oklahoma. Tell us a little more about Langston University. Obviously, in these parts, we know that at one point you were a member of the SWAC, so a lot of people still hold on to that from these days. As you know, Southern, it continues to be a member of the SWAC.
No doubt about it. I tell you, a lot of our alumni have not forgotten about that as well. And as you can imagine, with a successful season and really a great program, we hear quite often from our alumni about rejoining the SWAC. But at any rate,
well, you can break that news here.
Yeah. Do I hear a breaking?
Exactly.
I can give you the sound effects if that's the case.
Now, obviously, I know you haven't talked to your AD. You got the coach on the line, so this might be a surprise deal. But we understand. Things happen.
Well, if there's some funding coming from...
that's well said, like a president. He say, where's the money? Where's the money? Let's talk about it.
Well, one of the challenges that we have, obviously you mentioned, we're the only HBCU in the state of Oklahoma, the most westward HBCU in the country.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that because our location is what really creates the challenge athletically in terms of team travel and cost that it would be for the university if we were to, let's say, join the SWAC or what have you. And like most states, the state of Oklahoma has been, in fact, this is the top state in the United States of America that's been cutting higher education. They've cut higher education budget funding over 25% in the last 4 years. And as we speak, the legislature just passed something about an hour ago in the Senate to further cut higher education in the state effective immediately. So the challenge we have is a funding issue in terms of where we play and how we play. Certainly, as someone who grew up around the SWAC my entire life, I understand what a big deal that is, and that's why for me as a president, having a strong athletic program, I recognize the importance not just for athletics but to the lifeline of a historically black college or university. But Langston University, just a quick plug. has been around for well over 120 years. We're very, very proud of what we do athletically, but I can tell you I'm equally proud of what we do academically as well. We have the state's top doctorate of physical therapy program. We have a top nursing program. We're very good in the hard sciences. And Langston University, while we offer a high-touch, high-quality education, we're the third most affordable university with 4,000 or less students in the United States of America. You can attend Langston University, believe it or not, if you're an in-state student, tuition for up to 18 credit hours is still under $2,000.
Wow.
It's almost unheard of. And so if you're looking for a high-touch, high-quality education, students should look no further than Langston University.
No question about it. Well stated. I like that plug. We're going to pass it over. I have two co-hosts here, so I'm going to let Mike jump in here and ask the question. Obviously, the announcement came out recently about Langston moving from the Central State Football League in football and then out of the Red River Athletic Conference to the Sooner Athletic Conference. So you do continue to make moves, and at least in the article that I read, it stated part of that was to allow the athletic program to continue to step up with more challenges, as the Sooner Athletic Conference has been a high-profile college at the NAIA level, winning multiple championships. Go ahead, Mike.
No doubt about it. And for us, we've done well athletically, but to make yourself better, you have to compete against the best. And so certainly we wanted to take that opportunity to compete and give our athletes every opportunity to be at the highest level during the regular season. And incidentally, although we're competing at a stronger level, this also will decrease costs because most of the teams in the Sooner Athletic Conference are in the state of Oklahoma or Texas. We literally will reduce our travel budget by well over $200,000 in year one.
We had that debate argument here, and I thought that was one of the mathematics going into looking at the analysis. So I'm glad that you dropped that nuggets on me. Go ahead, Mike.
Yes, Dr. Smith. Hello again. This is Mike Washington, and you started off the show by saying you're honored to be on the show. Well, let me just share with you. I'm a co-host, and I'm honored to be in the presence of Dr. Cavill and my co-host Charles Bishop. They allow me every now and then to have some.
President Smith, do not let these guys act up with you.
So we have something in common already.
Let me say this, man. If it don't help our ranking on your national poll, I am so
Now listen, are you a member of a fraternity?
I am, but I thought there was only one fraternity.
There you go.
That's right.
Okay, then.
Members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity
That's right.
Incorporated. All three of your hosts here are brothers.
All day long.
I thought the line was awfully icy. So.
See, they showing out. Go ahead.
So,
go ahead.
Well, Dr. Smith, real quick, you are from Baton Rouge, aka Red Stick, as known by those residents,
That's right.
And you are familiar with a culture, in Southern University that is deep, that is rich, that travels. Surely there's some aspect of being a part of that culture that you're bringing to Langston. You're making moves to the Sooner Conference, but what other elements of that Southern culture are you bringing to Langston to increase visibility, to increase the spirit?
Well, to be really honest with you, Langston had a good spirit even before I arrived in terms of supporting athletics. What we've tried to do is bring in a new set of coaches who bought into not only winning, but doing it with high character, high quality, in and off the field, the court, but also the classroom. Increasing graduation rates. My research area is actually on student athletes. And so,
we're going to have to collaborate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, combine that with growing up in both, by the way, both my parents are graduates of Southern University. My first football game, I was 2 months old.
Wow.
So when you grow up around that environment, it's contagious, and winning has a way of helping young people want to go to college and also want to go to the institution that they grew up around. So for us, it's a myriad of items, and so certainly we're bringing that culture. I can tell you one of the things we're going to next year, I don't, not ever, but certainly we've not done this in the past 5 or 6 years. We're going to have a night football game next year, and we haven't done that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We're going to have to find our way up there with it.
Exactly.
That's good.
Matter of fact, I'd love to host you. And if we have the right ranking in your poll, we may be able to get
Now you're about the business.
I'm a shameless promoter.
Yeah, I
I
see.
see.
I'm not bad. Go ahead, Charles. Follow up with a question.
Dr. Smith, I just wanted to ask, how exciting is it for the Langston community as a whole to host this playoff game, first playoff since 2014 for Langston University?
Big.
Man, well, actually, this is the first time we're hosting in our history. That we're hosting a playoff game.
Thanks for sharing.
120-year history. We made the playoffs,
Right.
but literally to host the game, man, the phones are ringing off the hook. Social media is
Let's go
blowing.
Lions.
Yep.
We have alumni flying in from all over the country. It's really exciting, and for the athletes in particular, you know, and what I admire about them, the game they just won last Saturday to go 10-0 and to be undefeated in the regular season, they were happy, but they weren't elated and jovial because they realized they have unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
And I give Coach Morgan, we call him Coach Q,
No problem.
a lot of the credit because with young people, it's very, very difficult sometimes to get them to not buy into the hype and to focus on one game at a time and literally to think about just the next game. And that's what I see in our student athletes. And it takes not just having good athletes, good coaches, but you have to have some good fortune as well. You have to have the right injuries at the right time or to not have them at the wrong time. Kids have to gel. They have to like each other. They have to play together. They have to learn to fight through adversity. And all those things, I give a lot of credit to our AD and our coach because we're playing together as a system, and it's just contagious when you're around it. And so it's exciting, man, to see what's happening for our institution. And quite honestly, we don't get a lot of the fanfare nationally. Hopefully this is just the start of it, of having a great season. The truth is, we were 7-2 last year.
Right.
We only lost two games the year before. It's just, you know, things have been good, but when you go undefeated, like in the entire NAIA, there are only 6 teams that are currently undefeated, and there are only 3 HBCUs in the entire NAIA. So to not only represent Langston, but to have a chance to represent HBCUs as well in the NAIA is a really, really big deal to us.
Certainly. Well said. And I think this is a perfect mark to get Coach Morgan on. But we'd like to make this promise to you, Coach. President Smith, we're going to bring you back throughout the playoffs as we follow up that. And we certainly want to do a special segment over the summer where we can give you extended time to bring you on and really go into your history of how you got to the presidency, and then really go into Langston in terms of the programs and what are you doing at Langston and some of the key people involved in making Langston work. We would like to make that offer to you.
I really appreciate it. Let me say to all of you, I know I said some things tongue-in-cheek, but I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for representing HBCUs and putting HBCUs out there, because while I certainly represent Langston, the truth is if it were not for an HBCU, my parents would not have gone to college, I may not have gone to college, and now representing one, it's so critical that we continue to uplift historically black colleges and universities every day of every year. And so I appreciate what you're doing.
Certainly appreciate that, and couldn't have said it better than that. Please give a thank you to Danita Drain Rogers in terms of making sure putting this together and getting you on. And as we like to end our segment with the interviewee, go Lions.
Go Lions.
Go Lions.
Hey, I love it. Go Lions up in this poll.
Hey, thanks, President Swift.
Thanks.
Coach Morgan, sorry to keep you waiting there, but want to get you on.
No problem at all.
Certainly, don't want to outdo the president there, but he got in there and gave a lot of kudos in terms of what you're able to do. For those that are not familiar, you're actually a Langston University alum, coming back and bringing this undefeated season. So talk a little bit more about your history, where you're from, how you got to Langston, and then how it feels to come back and be a coach of the undefeated Langston University Lions.
My name is Quentin Morgan. I'm originally from Kenner, Louisiana. Just like my president, Dr. Kent Smith Jr., I also attended Southern University for 1 year on a baseball scholarship. I signed with
Roger.
All right.
Okay, just retired.
Yes, sir. I started off my collegiate career at Southern University in 2000. I was on the team with Mike Woods, Ricky Weeks, those players, and from there had a little injury, a little setback.
Man, that was a talented team. You just kind of brushed that off. Time I was there with, yeah. You must have been nice to be able to get on that spot.
Yes, sir. But yeah, once I took my rotator cuff, I wound up going to Jackson State. Transferring to Jackson State. Yes, sir. And that's when I wound up playing football there and was able to run across.
So you went from baseball. Hold on, coach. You went from baseball to the football field, from Southern to Jackson, just like that. No big deal.
Yes, sir. But what happened is I was also on the Jackson State baseball team as well. But my shoulders would never got back the way it was. Pitching in high school, so I concentrated on football. So it basically helped me continue out to pay off my education. And what happened was I wound up meeting, as I was on the team up under Coach James Bell at Jackson State, I wound up running across Coach Greg Johnson. Who at the time was the defensive coordinator at Jackson State in 2003. Around that time. And he got the head coaching job back at Langston for his second term in 2004. And I came on down to Langston with him and was able to actually get 2 years of football. So that's how I ended up at Langston University.
Man, that's an awesome story. Appreciate you sharing that. We know Greg Johnson, worked with him when he came from Langston to Prairie View. I also worked with him a little bit when he was at Jackson State, defensive coordinator there, and literally just saw him a couple of weeks ago. So that's
great man. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him. Actually, he's the one that got me started into this coaching career. To be totally honest with you, I was a grad assistant up under him after I got finished playing my little term in arena football and stuff like that. And then I came back and started on my grad school at Langston University, and I was up under Coach Greg Johnson, and I learned a lot from him. I'm very grateful that I was able to have him within my life to teach me some of the things that he taught me about the sport of football.
Certainly. Let's jump in here and talk about this team. This team is very talented, won some tough matchups, blew out some teams. What makes this team go?
Our family atmosphere, to be totally honest with you. My kids know that I sincerely and truly have a love for them. They're not just athletes out there to me. They're just like children of mine. And that's the way. That's a relationship that we have. So, when you know that someone endears sincerely cares about you, you're trying to run through a brick wall, and that's what our success has been based off of. That great coaching and it's a God-driven program.
Certainly. Let me let Charles Bishop jump in here and ask the question.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to talk a little bit about your defense. You're the number 2 scoring defense in the nation. Talk a little bit about some of the talent on that side of the ball and the work Coach Calvin Miller has done with your Langston defense.
He does a great job. Our defense is pretty much anchored down by Jamari Finney. He's our stud defensive lineman. He's pretty much our All-American in our eyes here. He's averaging close to almost 10 tackles a game. He dominates the LOS. Coach Calvin Miller, of course, is our defensive line coach and defensive coordinator. He does a great job of preparing them each and every week. We have some great assistant coaches that work up under him. Coach Earl Horton is my linebackers coach. Coach Chase Green is my safety coach. Coach Bobby Burns is my cornerback coach. All phases of our defense have been playing on a high right now, and I couldn't be more prouder. The guys are very scrappy. Our philosophy on defense is try to get 11 men to the ball at all times. So we love to swarm to the ball. That's been the reason for our success.
Yeah, certainly. Mike, please follow up with a question.
Hey, Coach. Real quick. In 2011, just kind of going back a little bit, you were named as an interim head coach for the softball team. And the team had a record of 31 wins and advanced to the Red River Athletic Conference tournament for the very first time. Oh my goodness. And that's leadership. So you've proven it on the softball field, baseball, and the football field. And one of the key things that stuck out as I was kind of reading your bio was your strategic plan for recruitment and player management. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yes, sir. My recruitment wise, my recruiting goals are to get those student athletes who are coming in college ready. And, I believe in if you can get the geometries and the algebras and all that taken care of in the classroom, the X's and O's should come easy to you. And so that's why I believe in recruiting scholar athletes. It's been successful. We have been successful with that type of recruiting efforts, and that's the way I'm going to continue to recruit. It's been very exciting this year to see these young men excel not only on the field but in the classroom as well. That's my biggest thing. I really do push for my kids to succeed academically in the classroom, because we all know that this football, depending on who you are, it could be done at the end of these 4 years of college. So my biggest goal is to try to get these kids ready for the next stage in their life.
Certainly. Doing an excellent job with that with an undefeated team. We talked about the defense, talked about your philosophy. Let's talk a little bit about the offense. What makes the offense go?
Camaraderie, working together. No individuals. There's no I. We don't have that I guy on our offense side of the ball. Typically, you may have that. You like to see a prima donna if you're on the defensive side of the ball, defensive type of guy like I am. That wants the ball all the time. Our offense does a great job of working together and everybody maximizing their role, whether it's blocking or being a decoy. And I think that's the reason why we've been so successful. And my offensive coordinator, Coach Roger Taylor, he does a great job of mixing up his play calls to keep defenses off balance. So, it's just putting it all together and having them believe in one another, believe in the scheme that we're putting before them, and then letting everything else handle itself.
Certainly, Coach. Want to get you back on to talk a little bit more about Langston, your philosophy on football, and get some updates as you're going through the playoffs, because we believe that you're going to make a deep run in the playoffs. So we want to keep in contact with you. So we're going to reach out and get the contact information so we can go to you directly and get you on whenever you have some news that you want to share, and just to provide some updates. How about that, Coach?
Oh, absolutely. And I want to thank you guys so much for, giving us this opportunity. It's nothing like, this type of limelight, especially for these young men who work so hard up here. I just want to let you guys know that we definitely, we really, truly, definitely appreciate everything that you guys are doing for us, So, again, thank you guys.
No problem.
Thank you.
Pleasure is all us.
Thank you.
And we certainly want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, coaching and getting players ready to go and all the other things that you're responsible for. So to have you on really is important to us. And we're going to continue to do our part and get the information out. And like we say, go Lions.
Go Lions.
Thank y'all. God bless. Go Lions.
Take care. So great interview. Different there. Yeah. We went to NIA Langston, got a president on the line to talk about the visual and the connection between athletics on that side, and obviously got a chance to talk to the coach. But Coach has a dynamic story, and it's intriguing to hear the connection between the HBCUs and the way they played in the leadership aspect of both the president and the football
Can you hear
head
the
coach.
sincerity and the passion in his voice?
Indeed.
There's a lot of times that just doesn't ring out. You just hear that, and I just kind of sat in awe and listened.
Exactly.
I mean, anytime you can go from and be successful on the softball field and then jump into the football arena. And oh, by the way, I've had experience in the baseball. There's a pedigree.
Right, like you said, the passion jumps out. So
Yeah.
they are doing tremendous work up there at Langston, and I'm looking forward to them making a deep playoff run.
Certainly.
Absolutely.
I think we have Coach Willie Simmons on the line.
Yes, sir.
How's it going, Coach Simmons?
Doing well. Patiently waiting.
Hey, appreciate you jumping on in. The big victory this past weekend, sending the seniors out in style, getting that last victory at home, undefeated this season at home outside of that first kickoff game in terms of Sam Houston State, but within conference. Tell us a little bit about that matchup against Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions.
Well, I thought it was a good day for football and great weather.
It certainly was.
Military Appreciation Day, so we were able to honor our long, rich military tradition here in Prairie A&M. Actually had 5 jumpers that landed into the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
But you had the crowd excited about that, particularly after the first one. I think everybody was kind of looking up and they realized what was going on, and then they see the first one. All of a sudden, they start to see the next one, and the crowd really gets into it, especially those high school band members on the other side. Was like, wow.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a fact to see. But great day, and I thought our guys did a really good job of answering the call. All 3 phases, I thought they played extremely well. Had our highest output offensively, over 600 yards of total offense, threw for over 400 yards.
Woo!
Yep.
Nico was SWAC newcomer of the week, and defensively held a Pine Bluff offense that had been putting up some points and yards prior weeks.
Yeah.
Basically to 1 touchdown the last drive of the game. So I thought they did a really good job. And then in the kicking game, we did enough. Didn't have a dominant performance there, but did enough to win. And again, it was a great conference win. Again, got us to 3-3 in conference, so 500 in conference play, and give us a chance to achieve our goal of hopefully finishing the season with a winning record.
Mm-hmm. Pushing towards that, you have an early game this weekend, a Thursday night game as you hit the road. I'll let Mike jump in here and ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, Coach. So Incarnate Word, you head to the San Antonio, and their record is not indicative of what they might be capable of. So, how do you prepare these guys to get ready coming off this big win, senior day, getting ready for Incarnate Word, knowing that they have TSU just looming 10 days or 8, 9, 10 days after? How do you get them prepared mentally for Incarnate Word?
Well, I think the most important thing is that we talk to the guys about what our goal is. Again, our goal this season, at this point, is to send these teams out with a winning record. We're not able to achieve our goal of representing the West, winning the West, and playing in the last SWAC championship game. So we have to reshift our priorities a little bit, and that main priority now is to send these guys out with a winning record. That senior class, I think they had 3 straight winning seasons. So that's something that has only been done once here in the last 40 or 50 years, and we want to make sure that we put our stamp on this program that matters. So I think that's our main motivating factor going into this game.
Charles, go ahead.
Coach, I just wanted to ask you, talk a little bit about the maturation of Nico Hollins from where he was earlier in the season to where he is now. Local kid from Fresno, 410 yards this past week. It's got to be exciting going forward with Nico.
Well, he's grown up a lot this season. He had a rough patch during camp. I won't go into detail, but likely cost him the starting job early in the season. And, he had to grow up a lot from that. He had to earn the respect of his teammates back. And he did that. He sat behind Lavelle for 4 or 5 weeks, and came to late games and played. He performed pretty well, but kept a positive attitude. And so when we, as a coaching staff, made the decision to go with him, we felt good about it because of his demeanor, because of how he approaches the game, his ability to lead, guys want to play for him. And he's grown every week. He's been in 2 hostile environments, Alcorn State for homecoming, and down in Baton Rouge. And he's played above a freshman level in those games. And then last week, of course, to throw for 400 yards. So, his best football is ahead of him. And but he's growing and growing. He's growing more every week. And we're figuring out offensively what we can do with him at the quarterback position, because we kind of had to change philosophically, from Lavelle, who's a runner, to Nico, who's a true pocket passer. So, but we're finally figuring that out, and I think you're seeing more success from us offensively because of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's talk about Kadero Hodge and the big game he had, setting the school record, a record that stood forever from a legend. Talk about the big game he had and playing through it.
Well, Kadero's a guy that's been right there on the edge of having some breakout games, really all season. And he's a guy that works extremely hard every single day, never complains, always has his attitude. And he probably benefited the most from this change at quarterback. Nico's more of a cerebral guy, and so we're able to do a lot more of our run-pass options with him than we were with Lavelle. Of course, when teams start to load the box, stop the run, that frees up those one-on-one matchups that Kadero flourishes in. So Nico's done a great job of giving them catchable balls. He's a guy that has great body control of the balls,
and he's playing at a high level. And he's right now looking like the top receiver in the conference, and really one of the best in the country right now. And hopefully he can continue to have big games and attract the attention of NFL scouts. Because I think he has a chance to play at that level.
Wow, very, very talented. Talk about shifting the work schedule this week in regards to getting ready for this Thursday night game.
Well, we had a quick turnaround. Usually we give the guys Sunday off, and then we'll get back to work on Monday. But because it's a short week, we had to treat Sunday like a Monday, so we brought the guys in Sunday afternoon, watched the film, made the corrections, and then got on the incarnate word. So we had a practice Sunday night, came back Monday, and had to have a kind of a Tuesday, Wednesday practice where you mix some situations in with your base game plan. And then today was kind of a mixture between a Wednesday and a Thursday. Typically Wednesday is heavy situation and shoulder pads and helmets, and then Thursday is just in helmets, kind of going through a perfect day. And we kind of had to mix those two in a day. So we kind of had to put a perfect day together in shoulder pads and helmets. But the guys have responded well. They've done a great job of answering the call as far as how they handle themselves physically. You got to take care of your body on a short week. Mentally, putting out distractions and really coming to work every day. And they've done a good job of that. So I'm anxious to see how they'll respond on Thursday. But based on how they've worked and practiced this week, we should have a pretty good showing Thursday night.
Look forward to it. I like to hear that. Anything about that matchup that we need to look at going into that game?
Well, they're a team defensively that they're a 3-down team. We haven't seen many traditional 3-down teams. We've seen teams that jump from 4 down to 3 down, like our defense does, and Alcorn. Grambling is probably the only true 3-down team we've seen, but they're such a heavy pressure team that they're a lot different philosophically and schematically than what we'll see Thursday. But they're a team that's going to bend but not break. They're going to ask you to execute and try to get one-on-one matchups between their defensive ends and our tackles and their nose guard with our center, and allow those outside backers to kind of roam and play pass and run. So, excuse me, it'll be a tough challenge for us to identify who the blitzing backers are, because whenever you have 4 backers, all 4 of them can come at any given time. So we have to identify which one's blitzing, which one's is dropping, do a good job of that, and then we'll have to throw and catch. I think Nico will have to have another solid performance throwing the football. I think Josh Simmons will need to have a big day for us outside. And again, I think we'll have a chance. And defensively, they're a team that's very multiple. They do a lot of things offensively. So our defense will have to do a great job of seeing personnel, who's in the game, what they're trying to do out of each personnel group in each formation. And if we can do that, we'll be pretty well. And then, best teams-wise, 2 weeks in a row, we faced the top punting team in the country. Last week, Arkansas Pine Bluff led the nation in net punting. Didn't punt as well against us, but they dropped the 3rd, and still made number 1 this incarnate word. So we'll face another great punter, and but we'll be up to that challenge as well, and we'll need to play solid there to give ourselves a chance. But again, I feel good about the prospects, and hopefully we can go down there and have a good showing on the road.
Certainly, I hear it in your voice, Coach. Look like you're ready to go.
Yes, indeed.
Need to get you some tea. Coaching up, he wants this victory. Wants to get to Texas Southern. Wants to get that winning record
special
for those seniors. And we look forward to talking to you about this game next week and going into the change of the Labor Day Classic, moving into Thanksgiving weekend. Appreciate you, Coach. Look forward to hearing you next week. As we say, go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you. Intriguing as you talk about moving forward. That Thursday night game shift stuffs around, but then you get it's tough going into it. But if you can find a way to get the victory, it really helps you coming out. Get a couple of extra days going into that Thanksgiving weekend where you can now do some different things in terms of your kids, whether you let them go home or how you handling that because you got that extra time, or able to do some stuff on campus to make them still feel comfortable about maybe not going home for Thanksgiving. I guess we would follow up, and would have been nice to answer that question. But we'll get the chance to get into that next Tuesday. Follow up to see how he handles changing the schedule from the Thanksgiving weekend and things of that nature. As we move forward, asked you about the top 10 of the mid-major division. Certainly looks like we need to be close as we get into that. Some intrigue following that between Virginia State and Langston University. Let's look at the top 10 for the major division. Some changes in here as some teams were upset this week. Some teams jump back in the top 10, fall out. Tough losses dropping out this week is Alabama State Hornets, 3-6, 3-3 overall. But they played Grambling really well. Probably one of the toughest games Grambling had all season, maybe outside of that Jackson State game earlier. So I thought that was a little interesting when you go into it. But number 10, Prairie A&M Panthers, 4-5, 3-3. Hampton drops as they take another tough loss. They are not following the direction they want after starting out really solid. They are sliding in a major way. They're now 5-5, 4-3. So they're literally going to fight Howard University the end of the season with a winning record. That's going to be a tough cause because Howard is playing really good football.
And Howard's playing for at least at best case a share of the title.
Yes, indeed.
So you know they're going to bring their A game.
Exactly.
Number 8, Tennessee State Tigers, 6-4, 2-4. They move up one spot after a big win. They've slid. They're trying to right the ship, and obviously the negative news is going out. What happened to a defensive lineman in that game? We won't go into detail. People have heard enough about that. And number 7, North Carolina Central Eagles, 7-3, 5-2. You talking about losing the heartbreaker and everything falling off a last-second flow. Actually having the game won, but a penalty is called because the fans come on the field. Well, that's not a lesson for the fans. And to getting that right, I don't think you ever get one. They dropped 3 spots, 7-3, 5-2. Literally cost themselves a championship, meaning a chance to get back to the Celebration Bowl. At number 6, Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, 6-4, 5-2. They actually move up one spot as they get it done winning on the last second throw and getting that retry. So you just know after they got the 15-yard penalty, set them up just perfectly. The ball was tipped, falls into the right hand, and they get the win. At number 5, top 5 programs. Number 5, Southern Jaguars, 7-3, 5-1. They did what they're supposed to do against Texas Southern University. At number 4, you have the Alcorn State Braves sitting at 7-3, 5-1. They continue to move forward. And then you have Howard, 7-3, 6-1. They stay at number 3 as they get it done, moving around in there. And then you have number 2, Grambling State Tigers, 5 first-place votes, 9-1, 6-0, playing some good football, but they had a tough one against Alabama State. But this is kudos of a team that just knows how to win. They find a way to get it done no matter what. And then you have number 1, North Carolina A&T Aggies, 10-0, 7-0. They get the victory. They win the outright championship with the loss of North Carolina Central. I shouldn't say outright. They have to win the outright. Actually, Howard can do a share of it, but it doesn't matter from the standpoint they have the tiebreaker because of the better non-conference schedule and win. Both of them have an FBS win, but they have a FCS win on the ledger, so they have more points. So they actually get the bid to the Celebration Bowl, whether they win the conference outright or they lose this contest, they still get a share. But I'm sure after losing 3 straight years North Carolina Central, they're going to go into this game, and much as we've heard about Langston University, it's something about being able to say you're undefeated. That really separates you from your peers. So to make that statement on the regular season, I'm sure the Aggies want to get that done before they even worry about facing whoever they have to out of the SWAC to see about making a statement at a National Black College Championship.
But
it's still interesting. Go ahead.
Did either of you think we'd be having this conversation a year ago when Tariq Cohen left?
No, I thought it was. I thought A&T's offense was going to drop off without Tariq Cohen because they were such a run-heavy team with Tariq Cohen. But it's like they flipped the paradigm, if you will. They're throwing the ball all over the place now. Lamar Reynard is one of the best quarterbacks in the MEAC. He's thrown for over 2,000 yards this season, and I just didn't see that coming. And then North Carolina A&T. Awesome defense, so let's see it.
Listen to this: number 1, scoring offense; number 2, scoring defense; number 1, total offense; number 2, total defense; number 2, rushing offense. You talk about balance,
getting it done.
So I just didn't think we'd have this conversation in the wake of Tariq Cohen departing from the NFL.
Coach Broadway, we're gonna have to start chiseling him.
Exactly.
In that,
we got to give him some more.
He's climbing up and making a huge statement. Well, we have our second president of the night, President Abdullah of Virginia State University. It's good to have you on.
Thank you. Good to be here.
He is the 14th. Oh, no problem at all. He's the 14th president of Virginia State University. I had a chance to meet him, actually shake hands and say hello and set up this interview in a lot of ways. Very proud of what they're doing at Virginia State University. But if you can give a nugget as you give your background, as you open up a statement when people are asking why become a president of HBCU, you just amazed me when you launched into your family background. Obviously, you believe in God, but you attached your family to HBCUs. If you could do that for us, I definitely appreciate that.
I'd be honored. Look, my mother went to Howard. My aunt went to Howard. I went to Howard. My wife went to Tuskegee. My brother-in-law went to Tennessee State. My other brother-in-law went to Howard. My sister went to Dillard. My other sister went to Fisk. My sister-in-laws went to Florida A&M University. My son took classes at the Philip Cookman University before he started matriculating at Morehouse College. My daughter did a year at Hampton University before she transferred to the best HBCU in the country, the great Virginia State University. And so I say HBCUs to me are family business.
Yes.
I believe in HBCUs. I believe in everything that we do to help young people chase their dreams.
Yes.
You can officially drop the mic now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I can follow that. How can you follow that?
Now add on to this one. Now you're really gonna do it. We had your fraternity brother on, and you're in the studio now with the host and the co-host Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, and we all members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, I know that I am on radio with some fine.
Scholarly gentlemen.
You should have felt. You should have felt the chill when you done it.
You know, it is surprisingly cold right now.
So you're ranked number one in several polls, but Dr. DeVille's Inside the HBCU football poll, we do a mid-major and major division poll because we like to really provide a platform that really separates the difference in the scholarship limitation. We think it's important, and it gives you your own platform. But with this, tell us a little bit about the Virginia State University. Share your platform, why Virginia State University is special.
Well, I'll tell you, Virginia State University is special because there's so many people who devote so much time to making sure that they help young people. We've got a wonderful faculty and staff, wonderful group of students who believe in Virginia State as a place to receive their opportunity. And then, you know, I mean, I'll go ahead because I know you're a football show. And I think the same is certainly true for our football team. One, to start, we got the best, I believe, athletic director in the country, Ms. Peggy Davis, who not only helps produce winning teams on the field, but makes sure that our academic success rate is one of the top in Division II on the East Coast. And that means a lot to us because you gotta graduate young people. You got to be about the education, because that's ultimately what their students are coming for to chase their dreams. Now, having said that, also, I mean, I'm a big fan of our coach, Reggie Barlow. Fortunate to get him 2 years ago. I think he's doing amazing work. Him and his coaching staff, really coaching up a great group of young guys. And then what else can I say about Mr. Cannon? We got the best player, I believe, in Division II football. I believe he should be in the running in the country. And I'm just so proud of him. And he's a great young man, as many of the young men on the team are. It's a pleasure to get the chance to see them on campus, but also get a chance to watch them perform on Saturdays. And so I'm a big fan of the team. I'm a big fan of them, and I wish them all the luck in the world, all the skill in the world to get ready for Saturday.
Starting with that, I'm going to let Mike jump in here and ask a follow-up question.
Yes, President Abdullah, this is Mike Washington again. Kind of delving deep into and looking at Virginia State's just performance over the last 2 or 3 years. It rings of, number one, leadership, number two, culture, and those two factors have equated to success. I mean, what's the strategic plan looking out 2, 3, 4 years to kind of build on this momentum? Because it's tough to sustain that with all of the obstacles you have with recruiting talent, and that's from a financial standpoint and sometimes from a logistical standpoint. Where do you see this going 2 to 3 years out?
Well, I'll tell you, I think the important thing is to make sure that we recruit quality coaches, people who believe in helping to turn young men into seasoned men, turn young men into champions, and also to recruit quality young men who care about their future, who care about their teammates, and care about the game. I think if we do that, we'll be successful. We'll have different levels of success each year.
but we'll be successful ultimately. And the young people will graduate and go on to really do the things that they want to do in life, which is really the most important thing. So I think as long as we continue to look for character, to recruit character, to teach and mold character, I think we'll be fine. I think that's true across all of our schools. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, when we play, we would certainly prefer to win.
Yes.
But most importantly is, and I have to always remind everybody this, we want to make sure that we provide a quality environment for young men and women to learn to be the best of themselves. I think if you do that, then you'll win the right way. And if you win the right way, you'll teach the right lesson.
Certainly. Charles, please follow.
I wanted to ask about the hire of Coach Reggie Barlow. Of course, well known here in SWAC circles, but what is it that you saw in Coach Barlow when you brought him up to Virginia State?
You know, what I saw was an experienced coach, a coach that had been there, had worked at the height of HBCU football, that understood what it meant to win in an environment like ours. He knew what it meant to coach young men, not unlike the young men who were at Virginia State University. And so I saw experience, leadership, of course, his NFL pedigree. And then when I got a chance to meet him, he's just, Coach Barlow's a good guy. I mean, I really enjoyed sitting down and talking to him. He has been a breath of fresh air for Virginia State, and I really appreciate everything that he's been able to bring to the table, including his coaches and everybody he's got around the team. He's been good for Virginia State.
Yeah. So was he the one that talked you into going out there and catching this punt that has went viral a couple of years ago?
You know, look, I'm going to tell you, he did. So first of all,
that was awesome.
I'll do almost anything, right? So that's the first thing. I'll do almost anything. So when people say things casual to me, I try to ignore them and pretend like they didn't say it. But I don't do it. So the first time the coach said, "You want to come to practice and catch a punt?" I said, "Sure," but I let it go. I said, "Let me not go to practice and, you know, suited up, ready to catch a punt." And he came by my office and asked me again. And when he asked me, I said, "Look, if you ask me again, I'm going to come." And he said, "Yeah, come on and do it." So it was great fun. He told the team if I caught the punt, they wouldn't have to run. So they were really rooting for me that day.
Like never before.
That's right. And though you saw one, they actually kicked 3 balls to me. And when they filmed was the first one, I caught the first one and the third one, so I caught 2 out of 3.
Oh,
that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
I'll forget out there with equipment. Good kudos to you.
Hey, look, long time I have to put a helmet on and watch those guys win.
President Abdullah, we know your schedule is very busy, and we kind of got you at the last minute. With that, we'd like to extend an open welcome whenever you have great news that you want to get out. Please know that you have a platform here.
Yep.
And we would certainly like to see if we could fit it in your schedule to provide an extended interview where we could really talk about your pathway to the president, who you are as an individual, and then what great things Virginia State University is doing, both from an academic and athletic platform.
Well, look, I'd be honored. I want to make sure that I know I did earlier, but you know, my athletic director, Coach Reggie Barlow, our great players, they're doing great work. Of course, you probably already know that our basketball team beat the number 6 team in the country in Division II on Saturday, the same day we won the CIAA championship. So I'll shout that out since this is a sports show.
Yeah, please do. Well, you know we talk about all levels. Get it out there. That's what we do.
I know you do. So thank you so much for what you do for serving black colleges and universities. We greatly appreciate it, and I wish you a wonderful show.
Certainly. President Abdullah, again, thank you for coming on the show and giving us your time. And as we say at the end of our interviews with those presidents or coaches, the ADs of their institution, go Trojans.
Go Trojans.
Good luck in the playoffs. We look to follow the Trojans throughout the playoffs as they make a run.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Take care. Another solid interview going up there in CIAA. We did a little NAIA, NCAA Division II. Now we're going to get back to our traditional interviews. Coach Mike Haywood.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How's it going?
It's going all right.
Well, weather a little cold for me, Coach.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not used to this. You got to work with me. I'm used to this hot weather.
Mm-hmm.
See? Like when coaches give that little things like whatever. Coach, talk a little bit about the matchup, tough matchup. Southern came in playing really good football. You defensively, I thought you were able to hang with them really for the first half, and then the game kind of got away from you the second half. Talk a little bit about that matchup before we get into next week's game on the road against Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions.
I think the defense did pretty well in that first quarter. Second quarter, we got hit with a pin and pull, with a block down, guard kicks out. We had a defender there in the hole. Just couldn't make the tackle in a one-on-one situation, and he took it for a touchdown. And then, I think it was 13-0 at halftime, but defense played pretty well in the first half. Defense just couldn't get anything going in the attacking game. We get something going, and then we'll have a breakdown, and then we'll have to start off again. And at this point in time, we weren't throwing the ball well enough to overcome that adversity in the other situations, which we have to do a lot better this way. But in the second half, game just got down with us. Joe George get back into the game with a onside kick and didn't get the bounce. Kicker kicked directly to him, didn't get the bounce. They bounced over his head. We didn't get that bounce. And, just a snowball effect from that point on. And so it's a pretty good game. You have to take your hands off to them. They're pretty good game and ran the ball well. And cleared some passes that they hit. And they did a nice job in the game. And along with that punt return, we directional kick. And we called the right kick. And for some reason, I don't know how to get to some of the guys on the floor. Got transferred over to a left kick. And everybody's going left. One person over there with the direction of the ball. And I'm not really sure how that happened, but they ran that back for a touchdown, which is truly unfortunate. And we were to back today with two returns back deep again because Pine Bluff is going to have two returns back. We have to make sure that we're coming in the direction in which we're kicking the ball.
Certainly, because they've been able to put up some points all year. They've had some struggle on the defensive side of the ball, but this last weekend they seemed to struggle in terms of putting points on the board, particularly 7 points. They kicked a couple of field goals, missed a couple of field goals. But talk a little bit about that matchup with the Golden Lions.
So it's going to be interesting because the running back went out again the other day. They played the back quarterback. Okay. And so you really aren't sure if the running back is going to be back in the game or the quarterback is going to be back in the game. But the bottom line is that they're struggling to run the ball and having a pass. They do a nice job, a pass the ball. And we're going to have to mix up our coverages to make sure that we do a very good job and not give up the deep ball. But I believe that we'll be able to stop the run. We worked on the run heavy today for the pass in 2 different periods today for 24 minutes. And so I think that we'll do a pretty good job versus the run defense.
Mike, would you please follow up with the question?
Yes, Coach. Coach, against Southern, I think Elijah Odom was 3 of 9 or 3 of 10 or somewhere, so maybe 10 attempts at passing. As you're going against Pine Bluff and you saw, their performance against Prairie View, will you kind of switch up and go with a more balanced attack, or what tweaks will you make and particularly the passing games from an offensive standpoint as you approach this Pine Bluff team?
Well, one of the things which we're doing is that we're reducing the packets significantly for him so that he really doesn't have to think very much. They play cover 1, cover 3, which is man, which is zone with three defenders deep, and then they play a cover 4, which is quarters across the field. Mm-hmm. And so it's not very complicated. And so one of the things that we're doing is that we're reducing his packets so that he knows where to go with the ball, if it's post safety or split safety, and he can go with the ball immediately and get the ball out of his hand. And we're going to have to protect it because if I'm Pine Bluff, I'm blitzing every down.
Yeah.
That's what you're expecting to do. So
okay.
we practiced against blitz after blitz after blitz today, drew up new blitz. And so, and we threw the ball better today. And so we're going to have to make sure that, hey, read one, read two, take off running. But we can't sit there and hold the football. We have to get rid of the football and get the ball out of our hands. Sure. And that's what we're going to have to do.
Yeah. Certainly, Charles, would you?
Yeah. Coach Haywood, game kind of got away in the second half, but in the first half, guys had a huge defensive stop at the goal line right before halftime. Archie Rice, 13 tackles. Talk a little bit about your defense. They really kind of held you in there for quite a while.
Well, I think the defense did a great job on that goal line stand. That was an outstanding goal line stand. Yes. Created some momentum. Defensive front seven really stepped up and did a really nice job. But Archie Rice had a good day. Julian Marcantel also had a good day. And, Julian is that quiet leader that gets everybody lined up and just makes quiet plays. Well, Archie Rice is that devastating hitter on defense. I mean, when he hits you, you know you've been hit. And so I just think those guys did a nice job on defense, and we just got to get our offense playing better. We're not playing very well on offense. Got to get better.
Certainly have to continue to push forward with what you have. In a lot of ways, particularly with this team being young, playing a lot of players, they're getting a chance to play through some different things, but you also have a lot of learning lessons. Talk about the youth of the team.
Well,
particularly that are playing on the field, I'm sorry.
Right, I got a phone call from some of the coaches in the SEC today. They were talking about the number of freshmen in which we were playing and taking bumps and bruises now to have success later, which is a true statement. But we're playing 24 freshmen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so putting them in opportunities to have success in which they're going to be better football players in the future. However, it's unfortunate that we got to take bumps and bruises at this point in time. And, we have to sometimes, I was talking to the coaches today, and I would say, it's not necessarily what we know. It's what they know in which they can execute. And today we go out there and we have a team pass, offense versus defense. And the offense is slinging the ball all over the field. I mean, just slinging it all over the field, having great success, jumping up and down and cheering, and the defense really struggled. Mm-hmm. And my statement to the defense is that, all right, offense, we had some moments today in which we were really good in throwing the football because we protected really well. Defense, we had some moments that we weren't very good. And the reason that we weren't very good is because we didn't make the appropriate adjustments, slide into the right gap, hit the blitzes at the right time. And this is how, thank God that this is a Tuesday so that we can make these corrections and to be much better. But you guys have to get in on your own. You have to watch film on your own. You have to watch this practice. And then we have to get better. And I think that's what happens with some of these young guys. When you put new defenses, new blitzes in on a Tuesday, they really struggle. While a veteran team would pick it up, execute it effectively, move on to the next day. Well, we have to make some corrections and make sure tomorrow when we run again that we're going to run the things in which we're capable of running, and things that we can't get fixed, we have to take out.
I think it's really fascinating when you go in the maturation of a team, looking at what it takes from a coaching perspective of how much you can give up and what does that mean in terms of the learning cycle over a week preparation due to the NCAA rules, specifically how much time you can actually go over information. And I think many times as fans we forget that because we kind of move both together, looking at the professionals, colleges, even at the Power Fives, is that there's a difference between a person obviously called a professional and the amount of time they can play versus somebody else. And just going through the process of building your program versus coming off the NCAA violation. So just think you sharing it with us. We certainly appreciate it.
Well, the good thing about it is that we're going to bring in some junior college football players this December. We have an opportunity to bring in 3 big years, and so we're going to try to bring in 3 JC football players to bring some experience and some physicality to the team. Actually, is what we're looking for.
Good.
And with that being said, we have recruits that are going to be coming in town for the last game of the season. There'll be some recruits here in town for the last game of the season that are coming in for our last home game. And I think it's really important that we get out and support so that these recruits can see the support of which we have. And, from the student body, the faculty and staff and the alumni, so that we can encourage some of these young student athletes from some of the junior colleges over in Mississippi to come to Houston, Texas and play. And we'll appreciate all the support that we can get.
Certainly. Thank you for that in-depth sight into the program. Look forward to getting a breakdown in terms of this week and then going into next week as you close out the season. As we like to say at this time, thank you, Coach. Look forward to having you back on next week. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers, and thank you guys very much.
And thank you, Coach.
And so, wanted to give you a chance to look at that top 10 of the major division poll. What were, as we kind of bounce back that for those that are jumping back in at this time, we gave you that top 10 program list. Number 10, Prairie View A&M. Number 9, Hampton Pirates. Number 8, Tennessee State. At number 7, North Carolina Central. At number 6, Bethune-Cookman Wildcat. Top 5 programs. Southern Jaguars. At number 4, Alcorn State Braves. At number 3, Howard Bison. At number 2, Grambling State Tigers. At number 1, North Carolina A&T Aggies. Let me know what your thoughts are.
I see Howard at number 3, but right now I don't think there's not a team that's hotter right now than the Alcorn State Braves or the Southern Jaguars. I mean, you have the stalwarts in North Carolina A&T and Grambling that have been there all season, but you talk about peaking at the right time. Alcorn, even without Lenore's Footman, the way they went out and destroyed Mississippi Valley this past weekend, they did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Back to back SWAC East champs.
Unheard of.
I mean,
hasn't been done.
Yeah. It's hats off to the Alcorn Brave program.
Yeah, no question, man. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Howard at number 3 is a little shaky. He's on shaky ground. Howard is susceptible to a team with a very good defense. You look at what Southern's done across the board, Alcorn State, and particularly without Footman, as you allude to, and I think you could make an argument for either, especially Alcorn State or Southern, being ranked higher than Howard, from my perspective.
You wanna jump who?
Howard.
Jump them to where?
You could flip them. So instead of being number 3, maybe 4 or 5.
Pretty fascinating when you do that flip there. I think that's a good point. What's your thoughts on in terms of that flip?
Well, I mean, that's what I was saying. That Alcorn or Southern, I think you can flip them in front of Howard, but it'll be interesting to see going into the Bayou Classic, of course. Southern and Grambling. Alcorn, I expect for them to do what they're supposed to do against Jackson State this weekend.
If you look at the scheduling,
well, you don't know how much that hurts.
The scheduling, the scheduling's laid out. We won't talk about that Southern game, that S game coming. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that Southern Grambling State game, factors out, and I really think Grambling State will win. But I want to see how competitive the game will be.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. I think, we'll jump into that next week. But
exactly.
I tell you what, Southern's running the football now. So, and Austin Howard is healthy. They're a different ball club with Austin Howard healthy.
Yeah, we can't wait to get in there talk. We get an extended amount of time in a lot of ways on that show because it's basically one of the few games.
However, I think we've underrated Grambling's defense.
You're right. We have.
So I'm sorry.
I think that's very fair when you jump in there and certainly want to throw in those jabs. But want to make sure we get in here with some Big B and Cowboy updates as we're coming up to the awards Wednesday, the 29th, when we'll give out our Big Ben finalists. And we'll do some semifinalists today. But this is our last week of the week-to-week awards. Prairie View and Panthers quarterback Nico Hollins had a game to remember against Arkansas Pine Bluff. He threw for 410 yards He completed 58% of his passes. He threw four touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He added 12 more yards on the ground, just to round it up. Prairie View Panthers' Kadero Hodge was a major recipient of Holland's passes. He had 8 receptions for a whopping 232 yards, breaking a long-time record. Have kinfolks that actually shared the room with the legendary wide receiver
Otis Taylor.
I wanted to make sure that you got a chance to put that out there in regards to that. Breaking that record. He had 3 touchdowns to his great game. His long reception was 88 yards, busted it through the middle and slid and just outran the defense, made one move that threw a cornerback off, and it was a beautiful run as he dove into the end zone to get it done. Prairie View Panthers running back Stephon McCray also had a solid game, outstanding game. He had 14 carries for 115 yards, had a touchdown to his day, and McCray averaged over 8 yards per carry. Texas Southern Tigers defensive back Archie Rice had an outstanding game on the defense side of the ball. He had a team high 13 tackles. You talked about this, Charles. One with the pass breakup. Prairie View Panthers linebacker Anthony Stubbs continues the ball out against all teams this year, as he's made the list several times as defensive player. Look for him to find a way on this semifinalist list.
Absolutely.
Arkansas Pine Bluff, he had a great game. He had 11 tackles or 1-point tackles for a loss. He had 1 sack to his game. Grambling State Tigers kicker Marco Zarco connection. 3 extra points attempts against Alabama State. He was also successful on a 41-yard field goal. Prairie View A&M Kadero Hodge is the Big Ben Award Offensive Player of the Week. Prairie View A&M Anthony Stubbs is the Big Ben Award Defensive Player of the Week. And Grambling State's Mark Orozco is the Big Ben Award Specialist of the Week. So that gives you that list. Kadero Hodge, wide receiver of D-Low, Mississippi, 3 touchdowns, 232 yards. Anthony Stubbs, the linebacker, Millville, New Jersey, 11 tackles, 1.5 tackles for a loss, and a sack. In special team, Mark Orozco, kicker, Denton, Texas, 3 extra points and 1 field goal, as he continues to get it done. So let me go ahead and give you the semifinalist list for this week. Devontae Kincaid, quarterback, Grambling State. He was a weekly award winner 5 times this year. Mark Orozco, kicker, Grambling State, was on the weekly specialist 4 times. Anthony Stubbs, linebacker from Prairie View A&M, he got the call 3 times this year. Kadero Hodge, wide receiver, Prairie A&M. With this one, he won this week. He gets a second nod. Sean Jones, linebacker, Texas Southern, also had 2 this year. Arian Cuevas, kicker for Texas Southern, notched 2 weeks where he was a specialist. And then Dondre Dobbins, defensive back for Texas Southern University, also is on the list, making it twice this year. So that'll round down for the 7 that made the semifinalists, and we'll round down to 4 or 5 for the finalists next week. And we'll look to see who's coming to town to take home the Big Ben. Should be interesting as we continue to move forward with all the things going on. We were working on trying to get last interview in here, so we'll see if we can make the adjustment just in case we can get Coach Barlow in here for the Virginia State Trojan. He was very excited about getting on, but I know schedules get tough and mixed up, so we got to hold on a little time and see if we can get it in there. But with that, give me your national players of the week in regards to what you have taking place at this time.
Sure. Nationally, want to take a look at Trenton Cannon, Virginia State running back, 16 carries, 186 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the CIAA championship game as well. And you got to give some love to the defensive side of the ball. Raheem Husky, he had 14 tackles. Anthony Smith, 14 tackles. Osmond Thompson, 14 tackles. And of course, we mentioned Archie Rice from Texas Southern with 13 tackles.
Yep, I'd like to kudos to Anthony Filial, running back for Howard. 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, 60-yard blast. When we're always talking about Caleb Newton, here's a kid who steps up in a big win, so I want to give him kudos. So.
Certainly, we have I'll throw that out there too. We had 3 big matchups, and you just kind of do that. Talk about the fact these playoff games this weekend. We have 3 HBCUs in the playoff.
Yep.
1 at the NIA level, Langston, we talked about it.
Yep.
Bowie State as well out of CIAA. Virginia State, the Trojans are going in the playoffs, so that was really big in terms of those matchups. And all three of them have home games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Talk about these particular matchups in terms of what do you see happening in some of these particular matchups going into this playoff weekend for the mid-major division.
One of the games that stands out for me is Bowie State versus Delta State. Of course, being from Mississippi, very familiar with Delta State's program. Traditionally a strong defensive unit, and they have made deep playoff runs. I think there's a national championship in there somewhere as well. But Amir Hall getting a national stage to watch him put the ball in the air against Delta State, that should be fun. And West Georgia, Virginia State, that's another good one as well. So they got their work cut out for them in the first round of playoff.
Yeah, no easy matchup playing against teams that are experienced about going into the playoffs. But it's going to be intriguing the fact that they got these games at home.
Yeah.
We also hear a lot of people talk about the playoffs. Oftentimes we focus a little more at the FCS level, and one of the concerns many people talked about the fact that you're going on the road. But now in this time, the Division II people have put themselves in very good position in terms of the rankings that they'll have these games at home. How much of a difference do you think that makes? We've seen that go a long way from Winston-Salem State when they made their semifinal run, when they made their final run. Same thing with Tuskegee the year before when they got into playoffs and they had a chance to play a game at home before they went on the road and kind of get them nerves out and see that they could play with most teams. What do you think the difference will be, the fact that they have these games at home, including Langston, where we talked about this is the first time in their history that they'll have a home game? Go with Mike and then we'll come back to you, Charles.
So if I may go back to Virginia State, they're hosting the game second time in 4 years. They're hosting West Georgia, and West Georgia has clocked up 3 wins against HBCUs this year. They beat Fort Valley 34-9. They beat Miles 45-7, and Albany State. Their losses have come against Delta State, West Alabama, and West Florida. So they're a tough contender. Even though it's a home game, that is still going to be an uphill battle for Virginia State.
I think it's a great point. But remember, this is also the Virginia State team that literally got on the road a week before last year, went to Tuskegee, beat Tuskegee, one that nobody thought they could do, and turned around. Tuskegee goes a couple of rounds in the playoffs. So while the SIC probably was down this year, I don't think that's the case for the CIAA. They did what they were supposed to do against their regional foes. They did what they could do against their CIAA components, and they put major points on the board when they needed to, and they actually beat up on the SIAC in non-conference games as well. So I certainly understand that these are very strong teams, but I think these are going to be very good football games. And I think these programs have a chance to come home with a victory.
Well, I mean, especially Virginia State. I mean, in play, you're talking postseason ball. They say pack your running game, and they have one of the best running backs in all of HBCU football.
Tell them a little more about Trent Cannon.
Trent Cannon. He's a guy who's rushed for 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns this past season. So I think Virginia State has to do what they do well, and that's run the football and run it hard and use Trent Cannon to the best of his ability to get this win.
You had Dream Carson of Bowie State, and I think he's going to be solid for that team. But jump back in.
I think they'll have to establish not only a run but a balanced attack, because West Georgia, they're holding their opponents to 13 points a game all year.
Good point.
So I think they have the edge in this first game because it's a home game, because they're more balanced. I just hope they don't overlook this West Georgia team sitting at 8-3.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be surprised if they were looking, but I think you still go into some points that you're talking about. And I think a critical facet in this game a lot of times is really going to be less about what they're able to do on offense. I think in the playoffs, offense always shrinks down. You're always critical. You're not as aggressive oftentimes in the playoffs, particularly late in games. So to me, in a lot of ways, this is going to be about what the defense is able to do.
I agree.
Are they able to force some turnovers?
Force some turnovers.
Yes,
force some turnovers, get some easy scores, get comfortable, take the jitters out, then just play football and you're in good position. And then obviously, as we always say, is those special teams.
Yes.
What are you able to do on the special
third element of the game?
The third element of the game. Are you going to be able to punt and kick return and kick the ball? Are you going to get good positions in your kickoff game? Are you able to flip the field? Are you able to make those extra points? When you get in field goal range, can you have a kicker that is able to put up those 3 points, put points on the board, so you're not always forced to do things out of characteristics in games? and when things get close, you can still put up there. So those are some of the things that I'm looking for in this particular matchup. Anything else in terms of some of the big matchups the final 2 weekends? Final weekend for the MEAC. Told you one of the interesting games is the top 10 matchup between Hampton and Howard.
Yeah.
Florida Classic. You got, always, they want to try to get it on the winning note. With Muthukin, and they continue to win that game. Can they get in the mix? Can FAMU make that last statement and change it? What are your thoughts on some of those matchups? Sobo against Jackson State, Alcorn State, Braves. It's going to be tough. Even though a lot of people are picking the Braves, Jackson State is at least going to fight early. Going down the stretch in some of those matchups. What are your thoughts on some of those games? Obviously, North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central, they just going to go at it no matter what's on the line.
I'd be interested to see how much of a fight, that North Carolina Central brings to the table, to the forefront.
Yeah, that was a tough loss.
That's a tough loss. Yeah. Mentally, can they bounce back, knowing that they're kind of out of the championship picture? I'd be interested to see how much fight they bring to the forefront, particularly on the defensive front.
Certainly, I think you bring some excellent points there. And on that note, you had anything you want to close before we officially close the show?
Well, just Howard Hampton to see if Howard can make that push, if you will, and get some looks playoff-wise.
Yeah, I'd like to see Howard get some playoff looks, definitely.
Yeah, they did have that big win. FBS will see if they can close out and at least make it interesting. With that, I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, the sports professor with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. As we come to the close, we hope you enjoyed our conversation with Langston University President Dr. Kent J. Smith, Jr., member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, and head football coach Quentin Morgan, as well as the president of Virginia State University, Makola Abdullah, president of Virginia State University, also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. You see kind of how I tied that on. Snuck that in on you all.
Like that.
We'll promise to find a way to get Reggie Barlow back. We couldn't get him this week, so we apologize about that. But he certainly was interested in that. And then we have our Coach Willie Simmons, Prairie A&M University head football coach, and Coach Mike Haywood, Texas Southern University, as they come in with us and give us their weekly updates. We want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside HBCU Sports Lab radio show with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday from 5:45 to 7:15 right here on KCOH TV, 92.9 FM HD2, the van where we're pumping your system in the historic KCOH studio in Houston, Texas, www.kcoh-tv.com. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon.
Course lecture dismissed.
Yeah, the other one didn't. The other one didn't call.
Man, let's see her.
Let me see that one. Let me see. Which one? That one? This one? Which one? No, I want this one. No, I want this one. Let me see that. No, this one.